Okay, everybody got their books with them? Jim, you need a couple pieces that I can give you a few here for lesson 5.
Go back to thirds, please.
What'd you say?
I said go back to thirds.
Yeah, I'm going to, so don't put it all away yet. I will eat some more. Okay, let's, tonight we're really on the tail end of everything, guys. By this time, I hope that you've been able to really think about and consider who you're going to mentor, as far as at least asking one guy, and have started thinking about topics. Kind of got some things going around in your head on that. Been praying about some of this. This past soil prep over the last 2 weeks really was the topics and the mentees. You guys were able to work through the timeline and the life turns last time around, and hopefully that was helpful. We come back to that a lot, so I really hope that you'll take that seriously. Tonight we just want to try to answer a few questions that really have to be answered before you get started with your group. And so they're on page 47 is where we're at. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to walk you through these. And once we get done, I'm actually going to give you guys about 20 to 30 minutes to just really spend on your own tonight, dedicated here to process through some of these questions on your own. So we'll walk through it. If you got questions along the way, great. But if not, then once we get done, you guys can work through this. So first of all, who are you going to invite to be your mentees? Now, I know there are 6 lines there. Doesn't mean that you're going to invite 6. We are encouraging you, and as much as a requirement as we can, ask personally one guy. Personally ask one guy. I don't know how your churches are working with mentees, applying or being a part of that, but I know that is a part of what you'll be choosing from, but specifically one person that you want to ask. And then make sure you let your champion know that, because that way he can know if that person's applied or if there's some crossover. If there's 2 of you saying, well, I want this guy, I'm going to ask him, and then he's got 2 people asking, and it's confusing. So make sure that a new community, you guys tell Kirby and Mike, and then First Baptist, you guys tell Larry who you're planning to ask. So that's the first thing. And maybe you already have a name picked out. The second question then, I guess I'm following here. What topics are you going to address during your monthly gathering? What will the outline of each session look like? So there's a list on page 47 at the bottom of possible topics, along with a plethora of others. And again, don't try to guess what are going to be the topics that your mentees are going to need to know. You are only choosing topics based on your experience and what you feel God has led you through and has been important in your life. Okay? It's impossible to be able to figure out what topics every single guy in your group is going to need to know. So that's why it's just an overflow of your life. That's why life turns, timeline are important. So be thinking through what scriptures, what books, what resources can you utilize for those particular topics, and then be starting to think of what kind of an outline. And Jim made mention that resource on radical mentoring, as far as what an outline of the evening could look like. And I would really encourage you, have some sort of an outline. Even if it's somewhat vague, have something so that you know where to start and where you're moving. Without that, it's easy to just kind of exist and you don't really get anywhere. So Jim, based on your book, what's a typical outline look like for you?
There's always you bring everybody together. I mean, you want me to tell you what's like? What?
Yeah. Yeah.
So bring everybody together, start every meeting with prayer. And then I start, and I stole this from the Radical Mentoring Summit, is that we have a session called Happy Crappy.
Oh, yeah.
And so go around the table and it's the icebreaker. So what has happened this past month that makes you happy, and what's happened this last month that is crappy. And you get about 2 minutes to talk about that subject. And it just goes around and it just kind of breaks the ice. It gets people to talking.
Happy crappy.
Happy crappy. Then we go into the topic, and like this one is prayer. Typically, I'll do it right away because I'll even have people coming in and they'll be mumbling their scriptures underneath their breath because they didn't probably practice them enough to memorize them. Mm-hmm. And then I'll say, okay, so we had a couple scriptures to memorize. Tell me what Philippians 4:6 says. And then the Radical Mentoring suggests that everybody around the table has to say it. I have one person say it, but then that same person can't say the second verse that they memorized. I always have a homework assignment, and 90% of my lessons, the homework involves the mentee doing something with their wife. If it's the marriage is the easy one. They fill out the 5 love languages and they do that survey together. But there's always a topic, a homework topic. So we cover last month's homework, and then we get into that month's topic, which this one would be prayer, and that's where I take a lot of the stuff from the Radical Mentoring site, because they give you lead-ins. You might ask a question like, and it's sitting there in italics, and I'll tweak that just to try and get the discussion going. And then you can always tie back those scriptures to that topic. And so, okay, so we were just talking about Philippians 4:6. And so in prayer and in just anything that I can throw out bits and pieces to get that conversation started and get the stuff bouncing around the table.
So Jim, do you the scriptures that you're having them memorize are for the next month's topic, correct? And then you're giving a homework assignment that's for the next month's topic. Everything is leading into the next one, right?
Correct.
Okay, all right.
So at our first whatever gathering, when you meet your mentors, I bring books with me.
Okay.
And my first book is Bo's Cafe. I
Okay.
always bring that in because that breaks the ice. Because there's so many people that will read that book and they'll say, "Wow, I didn't realize I could enjoy a Christian book," and because they've never really given it a chance. And it's such an easy read, and so then that makes my first topic is almost always grace.
Okay.
And so we just start dealing with grace. I show the video, the Skit Guys grace video. Another thing that I do is we assign what Radical Mentoring calls as growth partners. I call it mentee to mentee. And that so this week in Berkeley, you're going to be contacting Chuck, and you're going to set up a lunch outing or something. When it's on when my topic is marriage, I'll say, Berkeley, you and Melissa need to get together with Chuck and his wife and go out. And when you're out there, I want you guys to discuss the 5 love languages survey or whatever. So not only am I trying to contact them during the month, I'm wanting the mentees to build that.
That Barnabas relationship.
Exactly.
Yep.
Then there's the majority of mine. I assign a book, and then we do the net out, which is a 1 page. I make my guys hand write it, and because the first time the guy came back and it was like he forgot to take away the stuff from the website that he copied.
Oh.
So if you're going to have to hand write out the copy, whatever you're copying, at least you're going to learn something by hand writing it. But it is not a book critique. It's what you took away from the book, and it's just 1 page, and they can just. I don't care if you like the book. I don't care if you dislike the book, but all of them have something that I'm trying to reach you with. And so.
And you do a book a month, right?
There's 1 or 2 months where I didn't do a book.
Okay.
This last time, but I'm building my library more, so I don't think that's the big thing that I've changed. In that when I was doing this, going through this equipping, it was like, you gotta be crazy. You're asking these people to do stuff, and I've learned if you don't set the hurdle high, they're gonna question, well, why am I even coming here if I'm just gonna sit around a table and we're gonna eat cookies and, you know.
Yeah.
It's a price of admission.
So, and then the last thing is typically the growth partner assignment for the next month.
Okay.
Any homework that I've got, and then we close with prayer.
Okay.
And I honor okay, if I'm going to say be here at 6 and don't be late, we will be done by 8:30. And when 8:30 hits, I always say, okay, it's 8:30. We're gonna close with prayer. If you guys want to stick around, I'm here. We can talk, but I'm giving you that respect.
Yeah.
And so.
Yep, that's good. That's good. Good. Thanks, Jim. Others? Kirby, Berkeley, John, Kevin, Jeff. Anybody else? Things that you guys have done that have been outline-wise that can be helpful?
Well, I think, in mine, and they evolved as Jason can attest to because he was in my group. But so we're doing a little bit of work. We're covering some homework issues. We're doing some scripture things from the previous session, and then we also are preparing for the next one. But I think for me, I dealt with what the homework assignment was, the scripture and the reading, if there was any. That dovetailed into what my topic was for the month. So I spent more time doing that maybe than I did preparing for the next one. And sometimes I think depending on how you do these, like Bo's Cafe was a great book to talk about grace or trust, or even what we're doing together as men in this room, because there's a lot of elements in the story about how these people were held accountable and lifted up by their peers. And so I think the book could be, I only did 2 books in my year. So a book could be more than one session.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I think you could probably even take, you could even do a chapter. You could do 1 book over the year too. I mean, if you found a book that was really impactful for you in your life and you said, let's just take each chapter and stretch that over, that could be done as well.
I got caught up in I'm going to assign a book every month, and I had to step back and say, wait a second, am I doing this because I want them to learn something or am I doing this because this is what they need to do to get over that hurdle? And so I had to step back and say, I did not enjoy this book, so I'm not going to assign it. It's
yeah.
I didn't do it that way.
It's fine.
My
this is a framework, and we have 8 meetings, and so I set out and I put 6 lessons together. I tell them that it's an hour and a half to 2 hours, and at an hour and a half, I get kind of the pulse of what's going on, and by 2 hours, I always make sure that I close and stop it, and anybody can leave that wants to. There's been times we've sat there for 4 hours. We closed it at 2. So, I mean, they're welcome to do it. So I respect, and I think that's very important because you do honor the family commitment. You do honor the family commitment to what's going on. But I lay out the 6 lessons, and I give them the scriptures, and I have each one of them, and I keep gathering these up because I like doing this, but I have each guy has got to have a thesaurus, an ancient dictionary as old as we can get, a Strong's or a Young's concordance, and a study Bible. And I give them the topic that we're doing, and then through the month, before our next meeting, they're supposed to go through those and work on the scriptures coming up to it, and then we get together. The reason I do 6 lessons instead of 8 is because as you go through, the group will actually tell you what direction you need to go with stuff. And as you get toward that 6th lesson, you'll know where the last 2 need to go. Because by then you'll have identified, wow, these guys need to know more about prayer. These guys need to know about grace. Or these guys need to know more about forgiveness. Or just whatever it is.
Yeah, it's good.
And after I've met with them as a group, and I encourage them to pass cell numbers around, work together, then I try to meet with them twice outside the group in a month. Fills up your schedule pretty good.
Yeah.
The secondary meetings are one-on-one, and I catch them for breakfast, lunch, or supper, or me and food. So we catch coffee, we catch lunch, we do a restaurant. They can come over, cook for them, or I've even met at their houses before. And then we a lot of times get way off of the 6 that we're doing, and we work with those assets and what they want to look at, and that might go clear through. You might be doing a lesson over here with this one guy. You're doing this over here, and so you tailor it to the guys that you've got in your group, and you walk beside them and you try to help them in that particular area. Unfortunately, usually they drag you off in the woods where you've never been before. And so you've got to hustle back home, and that's the nice thing about being a mentor is it challenges you to be more of a man for them.
Yeah.
And there's nothing wrong with saying, hey, I don't know.
That's
I
right.
really don't know.
That's
But
good.
you know what? I've got a good pastor and a good set of elders and a good concordance and Sunday afternoon that, I don't need to go riding. I can stay home, I'll study this. We'll figure this out. And there's never been anything that came up that we couldn't fix.
Yeah.
But as far as assigning a book or a lesson or anything like that, I'm all for it. I mean, there is nothing wrong about how someone does this. I just hope that mine is, I've had pretty good results, I think, so far.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, that's good. See, and so you're hearing, it's customizable, and that's what we've always said with this, is we don't want this to be a cookie cutter program, out of the box thing, but it's something that, it's a framework you're working from, you customize it as you go, and I just think that's the way it should be done anyways. So that you get a chance to hear that now.
I think sometimes when you mentor, you have to spend a lot of time listening. And that's hard because you feel like you need to be the leader. And finding that balance with your group where you can really listen to them rather than thinking about what you're going to say next, what you're going to present next. It's just take the time to listen, and you'll get the direction.
I just watched
It's kind of like in prayer. Take the time to listen, and maybe you'll understand better what you're praying about.
I was a part of a webinar today. It's a guy who does, I think he teaches on how to help hurting people. And he was talking about active listening. and where he said there are a lot of times where he will meet with somebody, and they will he'll ask 2 or 3 questions, and that's all he says, and they will spill and talk and just vent, and they feel very fulfilled at the end of that time because that was something that they needed, and all you did was ask a few questions. I'm convinced that good questions are better than good answers a lot of times. Now, it's good to go and find answers together, but questions are so valuable. So listening is, I'm the worst at, I don't know if I'm the worst, but I'm not good when it comes to, like, if I'm listening, something triggers, and I'm like, okay, stop talking so I can say this. And so I don't listen to the rest of what you're saying because I've now all of a sudden decided I'm going to say this, and I'm not actively listening now.
Write it down. As he's talking.
But see, then I feel like that's impersonal to be writing as you're talking.
Tell him at the beginning.
And that would be helpful. That would be good.
Reggie just blocked on
Who did?
that. Reggie on that.
Oh, did he?
You're right on.
I missed that.
About that.
Yeah? He wrote about writing while...
There's 3 types of listening.
Oh.
Listening and mentor.
Oh, okay.
He talked about how it is that people do just what he talked about. They're already formulating their answers, so they're not fully listening.
No?
Well, you don't write out your whole conversation.
Sure.
You just take a little jot.
Just make a note. Yeah.
And you tell them before that if you see me over here, I'm just doodling, or
Yeah.
I'm just nervous, I'm listening, and then once I go back on cover, I won't go.
Yeah, that's good.
Because otherwise, you'll lose your train. There's nothing like chasing caboose, man.
Well, here's the thing, there's no perfect way to mentor. And so don't try to design something that's perfect. Pray about it, do the best you possibly can, and then wait.
Yeah.
And that's the hardest part is waiting and watching because we want it done now.
And being flexible. You may have a plan. I'm a planner. I'll have a plan, but I know enough when to pump and say, okay, this is going a different direction, and we don't need let's go the direction it's going, as long as it's appropriate and scripture
Sure.
based. So.
It's hard to punt. I don't like to punt. Okay, so there's some thoughts, some good ideas on topics and outlines. On page 48, you're going to see a mentee covenant. This is an example. If you would like for me to send this digitally to you to be able to manipulate however you want to, I can do that. So I'm going to make myself a note. I'll go ahead and plan to send this to you guys, okay? I'll send an email out. And how many of you have done mentee covenants? Okay.
That's also a part of every one of my sessions, is that we review the covenant.
Oh, okay. That's good.
And specifically what's said here stays here.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Do you use this one, or have you made one kind of like
I'm pretty sure this is
the same one here? Okay. Or something real similar to it. But again, we have found that the guys who don't do this look back and say, I wish I would have. So, for what it's worth.
I did one without, I did one with. I always do.
You always do it with? Yeah.
It gets buy-in.
It's what?
It's buy-in.
Buy-in. Yeah. Yeah, it does. So that's an example. I'll send that out to you guys. And notice the spouse statement at the bottom, because we want to make sure that she's on board if they're married. Okay. And I think that's probably good to hand out at the kickoff, I would guess, because that's probably where you're with the guys for the first time. You're kind of talking about what this is going to look like. You're sharing your testimony, and then you send it out with them so that when they show up to their first meeting, then they've got it. So I would say that's probably the best time to do that. The kickoff, I think we've talked about this, but the kickoff happens in April. It's done per church, and typically it's where the mentors and mentees get together for an extended period of time. And it's where you kind of start to break some of the ice, especially if you don't know the guys real well or they don't know each other. It's a good way to get that started. You get a chance to share your testimony, and so you get to set the tone for vulnerability and honesty with one another. And then you get to lay out, okay, here's what we're looking at doing over these next 8 months, so that they are they have the understanding of what the expectations are going forward, which is really key, which is a great place to use the mentee covenant. And so we set that, and Larry, I need to give this to you. So the champions of each church will set those up and get those together with you guys. Okay, so what are the non-negotiables on page 49? Are you going to say no tardies, no absence? Scripture memory has to be done. How are you going to do these things? What's okay? What's not okay? And stick to those things. Non-negotiables that you guys have had, or any examples for you all?
If you're not going to be there, you're going to call me.
Okay, if you're not going to be there, call. Yeah.
If you let it build, you got to quash it. I guess I don't know mine quite as iron fisted as maybe I should, because I've had some problems that way. But I've always believed that I want to treat the guys like I would want to be treated if I was the guy. And things are going to come up over 8 months. There's going to be stuff that comes up, and if you say when this one you're done, you probably won't even start. I just expect communication.
Yeah. Do any of you guys do calendars right up front and decide? Do you do that? Okay. Okay. So first meeting, you get together and put a calendar together and say we're going to meet on the second Wednesday of every month, whatever it is. You guys get that all put together.
The third Sunday of every
Third. Okay.
month, there's right.
Okay.
And then, I go into, the expectation. But, I kind of leave it on them that, everybody, you guys need to get together and come together with this because, I kind of give them the indication that this is written in stone, even though it's not. But I want them to commit to that date and
Okay.
if this is going to work. Illness comes up or things come up. If somebody is going all of a sudden comes up and says, "Man, I have got this coming up," I'll say, "You need to contact the rest of the group
Okay.
and see if you can. I will work around your schedule, but you need to contact the group, explain what's going on, and it gives them some ownership."
That's good. I like that. I like that a lot. Okay. So those will be some things you want to consider. The next question then, number 5, what are you going to do to get to know your mentees outside the monthly gathering? So you heard Kirby mention he meets with his guy. How often did you do that? Twice a month? Wow. So yeah, you did. You
So
really did.
Well, mine's more time based,
Yeah.
and of course, this might change because I'm getting married, I have a lot to do with it. I try to give them as much time as I could. That's
Yeah.
how I do it.
Okay.
Now, I at least try to do it once, but I always try to do it twice. if I
Okay.
could.
Okay. Yeah.
Once is enough.
Okay. Is that what you guys did? Did you meet with guys outside of?
Usually text.
Text them. Okay. Good. Good. Okay.
We text a lot. I think I got the idea from Berkeley to where one month I was having the guys start each morning with a text to their brother mentees, and I think it lasted 3 or 4 days. But I try to meet with them face to face with each one at least once a month.
Good.
I thought this was set up that you do a group and individual.
That's what we encourage. we really want to see that happen on a monthly basis outside of. If you can do it to where you're meeting up with them at least once a month, that's ideal. Now, some of it depends on how many guys you got in your group too. I mean, if you got 6 guys in your group, that can be pretty challenging. So you got to also know your time commitment, how much you're available in that as well. But yes, that's part of the framework, is to do that. If nothing else, somehow to regularly connect with them. And for some guys, texting does that. And I know you're not a big texting guy, so it's face to face. I know you do. So that looks different with each guy.
It's just easier to call.
I know.
I gotta tell you, Berkeley, the month that you had us do the texting and the daily devotion, I think I've said this before, even in this group, that was the most impactful month for me, where it really changed my perspective of the group and the commitment of the group, and it was to give and to receive the message when devotions were done. That's what it was. Daily devotions done. And I'm telling you.
Oh, really? Okay.
The other guy that I was texting with, Roman, he went to work early, like 4 o'clock in the morning. I'd wake up at 6:30, 7 o'clock, I'd look at my phone, I have a text message, daily devotions done. I'm not even prepared. I'm like, oh man, it's already done it. I better get my act together.
So it was basically an opportunity to where you were just letting somebody know that I did my devotion, it's important to us, and so we're communicating when we're done. Yeah.
You know, if I hadn't done mine for the day, because I'd see the text go back and forth, it reminded me, hey, I need to do mine.
It was so great for just a simple reminder. It's so easy to be distracted by just whatever.
Sure.
Yeah, oh, I'm looking at Facebook, but to have the daily devotions done reminder,
That's cool.
that was very powerful, and I will absolutely use it.
That's a great idea. Yeah, cool. Good.
We also did a fall retreat summit, whatever you want to call it, King Solomon Camp. Let us use their facilities in, what were we, it was it 10 months ahead, 5 months ahead?
Wasn't very much.
Wasn't very much. And we had Berkeley's group, my group, Fred's group, and Tom with them. Not all of them could make it, but I think, how did that go over?
Yeah, it was great.
It's fun. I mean, it was just another chance to bond and
Yeah.
learn some stuff, but
Played horseshoes, played
we played about every
basketball.
sport.
We
Yeah.
sat around the campfire, we had lessons.
Got to sleep in the bunk bed, which is about a foot too short.
Yeah.
Those are all designed for middle school.
Right. Yeah, there's lots of opportunities to connect. You know, again, we talk about the most important part about mentoring is relationships. So yes, the monthly gathering is important, but it's only as a means to an end, really. I mean, it's the relationship is what is really important. So that's what these outside, the monthly gatherings are for, is building that relationship. If you turn to page 50, there are more opportunities for that relationship building. And so these are just different components that you might consider. And in there, Jim mentioned growth partners, sharing of testimonies, hearing people's story. Man, I find that that's one of the greatest opportunities to grow in community with somebody and to know them, is to know their story. So there are several components there that you can utilize. Use the ideas of everybody else in the room as well. But man, these can be some really helpful things. The journaling, I mean, I know most guys don't journal. Journaling has been really important for me over the years. And but the problem is, what do you mean journal? What am I supposed to journal about? And so being able to provide questions and give guidance in that can be really beneficial. So there's some suggestions there for you guys.
These are great for journaling.
What's that?
These are great to do your journals.
Phones are.
Put them in your notes, and you can even can speak to them. You don't have to spend your time thumbing.
Yeah, that's true.
You can do it oral, and you better read what Siri thinks she hears sometimes. But I think that's a good record for it, and you can just keep it, and you just title it journal, and then the day that you do it, you can say, okay, September 7th, 2017. Go on, and then the next time you go, just scroll down, and you got it right in order. It's like a diary or a journal for you. And it's real easy. You can speak it and take time, and it works out really well.
Yeah.
Do you dump that into a computer or something?
You can.
Does your phone fill up after a while?
No.
Those types of things don't take much memory because you're converting an audio to a text, and text doesn't take hardly anything.
It's a time memory, you don't know how to get there.
Well,
Okay, that's good.
Oh, I got mine No, mine are Campbell soup.
With the red string.
Yep.
I stole an idea from Kirby in that, the book of Proverbs has 31 chapters. And so a lot of months in a year have 31 days. And so one of my, I don't remember where I did it, but as you read a chapter, verse of
Chapter from.
chapter of Proverbs,
You'd be amazed if you do that. After a while, they all start running the same subject. You're like, this is, God, you're real. If you do that for 3 months straight, it will become such a part of your life. You actually feel like a pebble in your shoe if you don't do it. And it's amazing how Proverbs, it just, of course, all scripture is that way, but Proverbs, if you pack it in there, it gives you peace, and it gives you strength, it gives you courage, it makes you feel like you're not such a screw loose sometimes. It helps give you the ideas, and it says that you will understand all mysteries and all questions. And it's just, if you do that, I strongly encourage all of you to do that. It's powerful.
That's a good idea.
I thought it was a great for those of us that are slow learners because it keeps repeating some of the stuff.
But when you have a certain thing in your life going on, it's amazing how the Lord uses it. And of course, you know how Scripture is. He always puts it on top of you. But it's interesting how it all starts running in the same direction until you get that done. Then it starts running. It's just powerful.
You know, another thing I just remembered when we were at the summit a couple years ago. Jim, did you do the? I can't remember if they called it Words from God or Letter from God. Yeah. And so there is is there an example of that online somewhere probably?
Fred's got it.
Okay.
And we tweaked it somewhat. And that is the culmination of our fall retreat.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Is the letter from God. And that's when Fred and I got together and started talking about the retreat. That was the whole retreat was the build-up for the letter from God.
Yeah.
And being in a nature setting, and using that as a tool.
Letter from God, the format of it is the letter, the 7 letters to the 7 churches in Revelation follow kind of a similar pattern. And when you look at that, you take that pattern and then you're supposed to take some time to go and be on your own and to then ask God to speak in that same way to you. And so it's something to walk through. It is really powerful. I did it when I was at the summit, and it was really powerful. And so we'll try to get that out. I'll try to get a copy of that and bring it next time, maybe on 27th, so you guys have that too. Okay. So here's what I'd like to do for the next 20 minutes or so. If you guys would you can do it either on page 51 or 58. They're really kind of the same thing. But just to begin writing out some possible topics, scriptures, resources, and why. And just start jotting some of those down. How do you choose your topic? Again, going back and remembering some of the things we've done in the past, your belief state, your buckets, storyline, your redemptive life turns, things you've experienced, books you've read, things you've gone through, all of that. And if you need some help, be happy to try to help you. But let's just take some time to do that, and then we'll wrap up here in about 20 minutes. You guys have any questions? All right. Is there anybody here that wasn't here last week? Was here last week? Okay. Okay, good. Songs. Over the years, yes. Some of these are from like 2015. Oh, usually anywhere from 99 cents to $1.29 for a song. Or just buy the album, usually for about $10. Almost like buy the CD. That's not very many. You should see people who have like, that's only 113 songs. I mean, there are people that have thousands on their computer. I used to. I got rid of a lot. I just leave them on here. Then I get the backup that's in the cloud. So, yeah. Yeah, I do. I'm gonna go grab it.
Which one would you like to see? One thing that I would make my calendar is the general manager plan. You know, that looks like that's kind of.
I bet so.
And it was interesting, you're supposed to give your family, supposed to, or friends, or whatever, supposed to give you a parent. And I brought up, he said, well, 3 pages of stuff about how, he watched me give a career in nursing and how he's respected this and it was so huge.
Huh, that's cool. That's a great idea. That would be really neat.
So that's something that's typically the first assignment
You get after it.